My inbox is full asking which residency is best. Is the Paraguay residency the best route to go, or is the Uruguay residency the best route? So let's dive into the differences and compare each of these residency options so that you can see which one may be best for your specific situation. The topic everyone wants to know, let's start out with citizenship. So are you able to get the passport and or citizenship in each of these countries? Now, many people don't realize that having a passport and having citizenship are actually two different things, and I'm going to be making an entire video on these differences. Uruguay is a really great case of how these two are different. So let's start with Paraguay, as that is the easier answer here, and then I will dive into Uruguay and what that looks like. So with Paraguay, you are not able to get the passport. Now, I'm sure you could if you had the right contacts, but you don't want to be getting a black or a gray passport, meaning that you have not obtained that passport completely legally or gone through the proper process. We do not process any passports or citizenships here that may be black or gray. Everything is on the up and up. So that is why, unless you are from these three countries, you will not be able to get Paraguay citizenship. These three countries are Spain, Italy, and Argentina. So if you hold one of these passports, then you may be eligible to get the Paraguay passport once you have obtained your residency and gone through the entire residency process. I do want to note, you always want to make sure when you're getting a new passport or a new citizenship that it is going to work with your current passport portfolio. Some passports you will need to revoke in order to obtain other passports. So you always want to make sure that these match up, and you don't just want to be going for absolutely any passport in the books. This is not the way to go about it. Plan your passport portfolio strategy accordingly to what you already have. So if you do have any questions about this, you can book a call with me and we can dive into greater detail. My link to book is below. So the Uruguay passport, what does that look like? So when it comes to obtaining the passport in Uruguay, once you have obtained your permanent residence, which takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months of you being in the country of Uruguay, you will then obtain your permanent residence. Once your permanent residence in Uruguay is obtained and you have lived there for a certain amount of years, you will then be eligible to get the passport. You will not be eligible to become a citizen. So here is where they differentiate. Now, you can obtain the travel document, which is the passport itself. However, and I've done a previous video about it, I will link it below, the problem with the Uruguay passport, but if you are obtaining the passport does not mean that you are going to become an Uruguay citizen. So an example of this, on your new Uruguay travel document, your Uruguay passport, it is going to say your previous citizenship. So if you are American, it will say America instead of Uruguayan. This is where not being a citizen comes into play. So you may have different travel rights than somebody who was born in Uruguay and somebody who is an Uruguay citizen, not only an Uruguay passport holder. So while this is a great diversification option to have in your passport portfolio, you definitely want more than just this passport in that portfolio. Let's talk about the changes in the processes. So there have been quite a few changes when it comes to Paraguay's temporary residence process, as well as their investment program. But most people are looking to go the temporary residence route because it is fairly efficient and streamlined. 2023 alone, there have been multiple changes to the temporary residence process. And these changes can happen absolutely anytime, and they actually are expected to have more changes in the future. Sometimes these changes are for the better, sometimes these changes are for the worse, making it more difficult for you to obtain your residency. On the changes front, I'm going to have to give this one to Uruguay. They have not had nearly as many changes in their PR process, and there is no temporary residence. You go direct to permanent residence, which is great with Uruguay. So Uruguay gets a point for this one because the changes have been much less than what we have experienced in 2023 2023 alone in Paraguay. The process of obtaining the residency. This one has to go to Paraguay. The documents that are needed to actually obtain your temporary and then permanent residence in Paraguay are minimal. When you are going through any residency application, what is typically going to be needed are apostilled documents of your birth certificate, a criminal record check from the countries that you have lived in, and the amount of time will vary depending on the country, and then sometimes a marriage certificate. And this is essentially all that is needed to get the Paraguay process started. There is no income requirement and there is almost no stay requirement, and that may be changing in the future as well. Now, when we look at the Uruguay permanent residence, there are definitely more documents involved in this process. However, this is also a great residency to have. And like I said, it does lead immediately into PR instead of 2 years of TR going into PR, as is the case with Paraguay. We'll list here just some of the documents that are needed to get the process started for your Uruguay residency, and you will see that there are definitely more documents than the 3 pretty basic documents that are needed for Paraguay. So you will need the 3 documents that I listed for Paraguay, and again, they will all need to be apostilled. You will also need a vaccine certificate, and if you have not previously had those vaccines or proof of having those vaccines, you may need to get them in Uruguay. The COVID vaccine is not included on this list. I do get that question a lot. You will also need a health check and you will need proof of income. Now, there is no set amount that the government is looking for you to bring in, but you do need to show that you have enough to support yourself living in Uruguay during the time that you are waiting to obtain your PR, and you will need official documents of this income. A bank statement will not suffice. Another question I get asked a lot about these 2 countries are the taxes. So what do the taxes look like and which country can be more tax beneficial? Now, in Paraguay, it is a territorial tax system, which means that as long as your money is not coming into the country of Paraguay in any way, shape, or form through bank accounts or otherwise, then you will not be taxed on that income. So Paraguay is an amazing starting point if you do have a business that's making usually $250,000 or less is what I recommend. Paraguay is a great starting setup. Uruguay also has some amazing tax options. Now, if you are obtaining your PR in Uruguay, you will get a 10-year tax break. So any money that comes into the country will be tax exempt for 10 years. And then following that 10 years, if you are not bringing any money into the country, then that money that is made outside of Uruguay will not be taxed. So effectively, this is a very similar system to Paraguay when it comes to taxes, and both are very tax advantageous. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about the stay time in each country and compare those. So in Paraguay, in order to obtain your temporary residency, you need to be physically present in Paraguay each year for 1 day out of the year. Now, I usually recommend more than 1 day just to show that you have some significant ties to Paraguay and it's not a quick in and out trip, but anywhere from a few days to a week to a month will absolutely do the trick in Paraguay. The way that it currently stands in Paraguay, you will have to wait 2 years and then you will be able to apply for your permanent residence. And once you have your permanent residence, you will be required to visit Paraguay once every 3 years. Now, again, this may change in the future as there are quite a few changes to the Paraguay TR process, but I will keep you updated here on this channel if there are any changes whatsoever. So make sure to subscribe. Now, Uruguay also has a very low stay requirement. However, in order to obtain your permanent residence, you are physically going to need to be in Uruguay for that process. As I previously mentioned, this can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months, with likely somewhere in between that time frame being the more exact amount of time that you will need to stay in Uruguay. While you can leave the country while your PR application is being processed, it's not recommended because this can halt or delay the process, and some of your documents like your criminal background check are only valid for 6 months. Once you do obtain the permanent residence, you do not need to stay in the country any longer. You only need to visit Uruguay once every 3 years. If you are looking to gain a passport in Paraguay, however, you will be required to live in Paraguay for at least 6 months of the year, become a tax resident there, showing significant ties and that you know the language in the country. And after various years, you will then be able to apply for the passport, but again, you will not get the citizenship. Of course, there is so much more that we can dive into on these topics, so if you are interested in obtaining either Paraguay or Uruguay residency, reach out to me. All of my links are below and my email is also listed below so that you can email me directly, and I would be more than happy to put you in touch with our team who we have worked with to process hundreds of successful temporary residence applications all over Latin America. If you like this video, hit subscribe. There are new videos coming out all the time. Thank you for joining me here, and I'll see you in the next one.